Welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast. We want to make the process of women planning for the retirement you deserve a little easier. I'm your host, Eric Blake. On today's show, we have a very special listener question and answer episode. We're going to answer questions about the recent passage of the Social Security Fairness Act. This is a huge change in Social Security policy and of the retirement planning landscape for many, many women across the country. We've received a ton of questions over just the last couple of weeks, and we want to help you understand what it is, who it impacts, and what you need to do now. Joining me once again is a producer extraordinaire, Wendy McConnell. How are you?
Well, I'm very good. Thank you for that lovely introduction. How are you?
I am well. So before we get to the listener questions, I've got a question for you since this is our first episode in 2025. So are you a New Year's resolution person or no?
Not really. I know. What a big bummer.
No, not at all. I'm not either. Somebody asked me that question the other day. I'm like, no, I'm the one that kind of gets annoyed by all the people showing up at the gym at 6:30 in the morning to using all the equipment. You just have to be patient, though. That's all it takes.
Yes. And I actually started working out a couple of months before the new year, but now I just pulled a hamstring and I haven't been able to do anything for like 4 days now.
Yeah, so I haven't played pickleball. This is week 2 because I've got a little calf thing that happened a couple of weeks. It's actually a little bit older than that. I tried to get back, didn't work out. So I'm trying to give it a little more time, trying to be patient with that too, but it's not working really well. So
you can't re-injure, so you have to, take the time off. So
part of just getting old, right? I guess that's what the deal is.
But happy I can still walk, right?
So what I wanted to do, Wendy, if it's okay, I want to just give a little bit of background on the Social Security Fairness Act. I think that is really important for our audience to understand because one of the things that the Social Security Fairness Act does, it impacts a lot of women. And I'll explain why that is as we go through this. But let's start with the basics of it first. So the Social Security Fairness Act was signed by President Biden on January 5th, 2025. And the bottom line is the Social Security Fairness Act, it's been in the works for a while, but what it does is it eliminates the Windfall Elimination Provision and it eliminates the government pension offset. The Windfall Elimination Provision, often referred to as WEP, and then the government pension offset is often heard of as GPO. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is these are both provisions within Social Security that impact individuals who have or are eligible for a pension through work that was not covered by Social Security. So when you think about that, let's think about teachers. A lot of K through 12 teachers, they do not contribute to Social Security. They contribute to their retirement system. So for example, here in Texas, we have the Texas TRS. That's what our Texas teachers contribute to. They contribute to TRS. They do not contribute to Social Security. But then there's a lot of also, of course, police officers, firefighters, a lot of public sector workers. So again, if you do not contribute to Social Security through your employment or you were employed at some point where you did not contribute to Social Security and you're eligible for a pension through that employment, WEP or WEP, GPO, they will impact you and you want to pay attention to some of the things we're going to talk about. These questions, I'm going to cover a lot of this through the questions, but again, I want to just give a little bit of a background. And again, specifically for our audience, because again, our focus is helping women plan for retirement. You think about how many of your teachers.
Yeah.
You think about how many in that public sector space. So that's where this is really, and it's honestly, it's going to be life-changing. You will have clients that I've already connected with and said, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what you need to know. And we're going to answer some questions that'll help others plan for those same implications. And we're going to make sure that you understand what it does, what it means to you, and more specifically, what you need to do now.
Okay, it sounds like you're kind of pumping this up as something that's good for women.
It is excellent.
Yay!
So let's talk about some of the statistics. Yes. So with WEP, because again, we talked about, it impacts teachers, but it also impacts police officers, firefighters. So WEP, it impacts, I think the estimates right now are somewhere between 2 to 3 million people. But it's about half and half. It's about half women, half men. Again, a lot of those women are teachers, but there's a lot more these days that fall into those other areas. There are police officers, there are firefighters, and again, those public sector employees. The big one is the government pension offset, the GPO. 83% of individuals impacted by the government pension offset are women.
Okay.
So why do you think that might be? Well, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. That's one of those that we'll touch on as we go through the listener questions. But this is the provision within Social Security that impacts survivor benefits and it impacts spousal benefits. So if you're married, if you're divorced, if you get divorced, if you're widowed, the government pension offset is what for many eliminated or even reduced or even completely eliminated any Social Security benefits that they may have been eligible for.
Okay.
Because basically what would happen is if you had, let's say you had a $3,000 monthly pension from being a teacher. The way the GPO works is you take 2/3 of that, so $2,000, and you subtract that from whatever Social Security benefit you might have been eligible for. So let's think about, the average Social Security benefit's about $2,000. Now, it actually varies from family to family, person to person. But if your reduction is $2,000 and you may have been eligible for a $2,000 Social Security survivor benefit, zero.
Right.
It wipes it out. And actually, then we also know that women live longer than men. So it's statistically, women are more likely to be impacted by GPO than men are. And that's why that 83% is pretty astonishing. And again, this is where, for many, this is going to be life-changing. Again, I know within our practice, we've got immediately, we had a handful of women who are going to be positively impacted with more income for the rest of their life. And it's going to make a significant difference.
I like the sound of it.
It's definitely a good thing. Now, also, there are some things to be aware of, and I think there's some potential challenges. So actually, we already hear all the rumblings about the Social Security system running dry and going broke, and 2034 or 2033 or 2035 or whatever year you want to throw out there. That's the projected period where the benefits being paid out exceed the money coming in. So that's where they're saying their projection is that's when the Social Security system could potentially go broke. This accelerates that a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously, if we've got a lot of people who previously weren't receiving benefits, but now they are, that's going to
add to
the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the other thing I want to point out is this is retroactive to January 1st, 2024. So again, I know in our case for a few of our clients where they are unfortunately receiving survivor benefits, one of which was starting in the middle of 2024, she's actually going to get a lump sum payment. So if you were eligible for benefits or you were receiving benefits and they were being reduced up until this point, these benefits are going to be, the law itself is retroactive to January 1. So there are going to be some people receiving a lump sum payment at some point in 2025. Now, when that's going to happen, your guess is as good as mine, unfortunately. That's going to be up to Social Security Administration doing all the math, doing all the calculations,
yes,
finding people that, making sure those payments get made. But just be prepared that the retroactive nature of this bill could result in a lump sum payment at some point.
So this kind of goes right into question number 1 from a listener, where is, my husband passed in January of 2024. I have Kentucky teacher retirement. Therefore, I wasn't allowed to receive his Social Security. With the repeal of the Social Security laws, will I now be able to begin collecting his Social Security?
Yes. So this is GPO, government pension offset. So again, what she's referring to is in that situation where he was eligible for Social Security because of her pension. She was not. Because GPO has been eliminated, she is now going to be eligible to receive a survivor benefit based off of his record. Now, we're not going to necessarily, depending on this question that we get, I always have to be aware of things like, what age are you? What age are you currently? When will you file for benefits? Those kinds of things. Because again, those are all the parts of Social Security that we have to be aware of. So I would refer you back to some of our past episodes on top 5 things all women need to know. That was back on episode 14, the episode 37 on survivor benefits, 24, I think it was, on spousal benefits. So you want to refer to some of those episodes and be sure that in terms of timing, that if you are now eligible, that when the appropriate time or the best time to file for your specific situation may be.
Okay. Similarly, Katie asks, I'm guessing this is not a survivor benefit situation. This is a current spouse situation. It says, with the passage of the GPO part of the Social Security bill, can I draw on my husband's Social Security?
So again, most likely the answer is yes, based on the information that we have. So we got to make some assumptions. First being that it sounds like your husband's still alive. So again, the GPO, the government pension offset, impacts both spousal benefits and survivor benefits. So keeping in mind the rules around spousal benefits, and again, I'll refer you to episode 24 where we talked all about that, where you may be eligible for up to 50% of your spouse's benefit, of your husband's benefit. But again, kind of using some of the math equations that to help hopefully drive the point across. Let's say, for example, that your husband's earning has a benefit of $3,000 a month. The maximum benefit you can receive previously or currently for spousal benefits is $1,500.
Okay.
But again, with GPO, that most likely in her case, it sounds like it was completely eliminated. Now she should be eligible, assuming she meets all the guidelines, all the criteria, she should now be eligible to start receiving a spousal benefit based on his work record.
I like it.
Good stuff, huh?
So, yeah, a listener in Illinois says that public school teachers do not pay into Social Security. So I only have about 20 points from summer jobs, but my late husband paid into it and collected when he retired. I could not get any Social Security benefits from him under the old laws because of my pension. So can I get some benefits now?
Well, I think this is a good chance to kind of step back a little bit and talk about the WEP, the Windfall Elimination Provision. So if you have worked in both, if you've worked in employment where you did contribute to Social Security and you did not, so in her case, again, we're talking about being a public school teacher in Illinois, in order for you to be eligible for anything on your own record, you still have to have met the criteria. So you still have to have 10 years of earnings history to be eligible for Social Security benefits on your own record. So that's what she's referring to, where she talks about having 20 points. So she's talking about having 20 credits, where for her own benefit, she would have had to have 40 credits. So she doesn't have enough. So that's one of the things to keep in mind, again, distinguishing between what she may be eligible for on her own record versus now, because of government pension offset also being eliminated. The answer to the question is yes, assuming she's eligible, she's going to be able to start receiving a survivor benefit based on her husband's work record.
Okay.
So that's where we look at it now and say, okay, you want to, now here's also, and we'll talk about this in some of the action items here in a little bit, but one of the important things to be aware of is if you have not applied in the past, you want to go ahead and apply for those benefits as soon as reasonably possible. So we talked about it being retroactive to January 1st of 2024. If you have never applied, you want to apply. If you have not applied up to this point, don't expect to receive payments going back to January 1. So you want to make sure that you want to apply as soon as reasonably possible so that those benefits can start.
Got it. So another listener asks, I've never paid enough to get Social Security. I've worked 28 years as an ISD school cafe manager. I imagine you know what ISD stands for?
Independent School District.
Okay. I won't get a lot from TRS when I retired. I know you went over that. I lost my late ex-husband, which I was married to for 24 years. I do draw his now that I'm old enough. I want to retire, but they said that Social Security, I would lose 2/3 of his due to the GPO and WEP rules. So does this new law that Biden signed, will it help me get my late ex-husband's benefits? I'm still drawing. They told me I would lose all about $600 when I retire. So I chose to keep working so I can draw the greater amount I receive now. This is the first year I actually do not have to pay them money back due to making too much.
Yeah, so let's talk about that last part that she touches on just a little bit, because this again gets back to understanding the timing of when to apply. So one of the things that she's referring to there is the earnings test. So what that means is she had started receiving a benefit, it was a reduced benefit due to government pension offset, but because she was still working, she was having to pay a good portion. It sounds like she may have been paying all of that back. So she was subject to the earnings test. So basically she was making too much money to receive that benefit. So now what'll happen for her is a couple of things. She may get a pretty significant raise here because of a couple of different factors. So if she's actually reached her full retirement age, all of those benefits that she had to pay back in the past, she's now going to get that recalculated into her current benefit at full retirement age. So her benefit's going to go up just because of that. On top of that, government pension offset has been eliminated. She's going to get an increase to the full survivor benefit of what she was eligible for had GPO not been in place before. So she's not only going to get an increase as a result of paying money back, paying Social Security benefits back because of working, she's also going to get that additional increase, or probably a more significant increase, by the government pension offset being eliminated. So she's going to receive whatever her full survivor benefit would have been. She's going to be able to receive that. Now, another caveat, because again, sounds like she started benefits early. So whether you're talking about survivor benefits or your own retirement benefit, starting early reduces that.
Right.
So again, go back to those past episodes, 24 and 37, to learn a little bit more about how taking benefits early impacts your future benefits. But for her, she's going to get an increase. She's still going to get an increase because that GPO has been eliminated. It's going to go up to what she would have received otherwise, and she's going to get that extra increase because her full retirement age benefit's going to get recalculated to basically pay her back for those years that she made too much money.
So the final question we have here is, GPO eliminated my widow's benefits. Do I get the full amount he received before his death, or do I get the amount he received when he first started collecting Social Security? Is she talking about like the increases that you get for like cost of living?
No. So what she's asking about, this is a great question. So again, as she's talked about, has been subject to GPO. So that eliminated whatever Social Security benefit or survivor benefit she would have been eligible for up to this point. So what she's asking, you say, okay, now that it has been eliminated and now sounds like she knows she's going to be eligible for something, what am I going to be eligible for? So what she's asking is, at what point, when he filed or when he passed away, which of those benefits is she going to be eligible for? When he started or when he passed away?
Okay.
So the answer to her question is, you are eligible for up to 100% of what he was receiving on the day he passed.
Okay.
Right. So it may be thinking about cost of living adjustments and things like, let's say when he first applied, he was receiving $2,000 a month.
Right.
But by the time he passed, he was up to $3,000. So she would be eligible to receive up to $3,000 per month, whatever he was receiving when he passed, but then factoring in age at which she actually applies. So if she's above full retirement age or greater, she's going to receive whatever he was receiving when he passed.
Okay.
If she starts earlier than that, then that $3,000 might get reduced. But so it's going to be based on $3,000, but then it's going to be dependent on what her age is at the time she actually files. And again, one of those situations where it sounds like she had never applied before because she realized that it was going to be eliminated anyway. So you want to try to get that application in as soon as possible. And also, again, going back to episode 37, you can't do this online. You can't file for survivor benefits online. You can do it by phone. You can do it by in-person meeting. So get that call scheduled, get that meeting scheduled if you think you're eligible. And we'll touch on these items when we get to the action items and things to do from here. But get that meeting scheduled. Get that meeting scheduled in person at the local Social Security office. Get a phone call scheduled so you can get that application in as soon as possible.
So is there, I know that personally, when you are looking into receiving your Social Security benefits, if you wait a few years, the benefit usually gets larger. Is that the same when it comes to the situations we're talking about here?
It is to an extent. So again, it really depends on, we got to kind of separate retirement benefits from spousal related benefits, whether that's survivor or actual spousal benefits, assuming the spouse is still alive. So for your own personal retirement benefit, full retirement age is somewhere between 66 and 67. So if you're born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. So if you start before that, your benefit's going to get reduced. For every year you can delay up to 67, you're going to get that additional delayed retirement credit up to 100% of your full retirement age benefit at 67. Now, you also have the option on your own benefit to continue to delay and receive additional credits for those next 3 years up to a maximum of age 70. You never want to apply after age 70. 70 is the max. Whatever your benefit is at 70, that's the maximum you can receive. That's how your own benefit works. So if you were subject to WEP, the Windfall Elimination Provision, that still plays into that decision. Whereas again, if your Social Security benefit is reduced because you have a pension, that goes away. You're going to get an increase. You're going to start receiving whatever you would be eligible for on your own record. And then again, depending on when you actually file as to whether you're going to get those increased benefits due to delayed credits or not.
Okay.
Then on the other side of the equation, then we have spousal related benefits. And we call these auxiliary benefits. Again, refer to episode 32, where we had a Social Security expert on the episode where we're talking about some of these terms that you want to be aware of. So these are, when you're talking about benefits based on a spouse, they're referred to as auxiliary benefits. So it's based on somebody else's record. So you have spousal benefits or ex-spousal benefits. That's the up to 50% of what your spouse is eligible for. And you have survivor benefits. That's the government pension offset. So government pension offset impacts both of those. Those do not increase beyond full retirement age.
Okay.
So let's say, you'll go back to use our example here. So let's say that at full retirement age for survivor benefits, she could receive $3,000. And let's say her full retirement age is 67. So if she starts benefits before age 67, it's going to get reduced by some percentage. Again, the earlier that she starts, the more the reduction is. But beyond that age 67, there is no additional increase. You don't get the age up, the increase up to age 70.
So there's no point in waiting.
Right.
Okay.
No point in waiting. And then you get into, okay, if I'm personally eligible for a retirement benefit and I'm eligible for a survivor benefit, which do I take first? And is there going to be a point where I am able to switch? Again, all those types of variables that, again, going back to episode 37, where we talked about survivor benefits, that's what I would refer you to and trying to understand those specific benefits better, so you know what the best decision is for you.
Okay. Should we be concerned about the talk of cutting Social Security benefits, Medicare, all of that kind of stuff?
So I'll tackle it from a couple of different angles. Number one, do not be surprised. So for those of you that this impacts, so those of you who have been impacted by the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset now being eliminated, you're going to get an increase in income. But do not be surprised if that changes at some point in the future, that they create a revised version of both of those, of both of the WEP and GPO. Because again, I talked about it right at the beginning, this very likely accelerates the process of Social Security running out of money, right? So something's going to have to be done. So I would not be surprised if there's some version of this that comes into play.
Is there a way that the new administration can come in and just like executive order and overturn this immediately?
No, wouldn't expect that. Well, because that's the other thing. It was a very bipartisanship approach to this. So it cleared both houses by a high majority.
Okay, all right.
So I would say from that standpoint, and even I believe even Trump came out in favor of it. So across the board, it was pretty well. It was approved by across the board.
Okay,
so
good.
That I wouldn't necessarily worry about. But again, it doesn't change the fact that at some point something is going to happen.
Right.
So back to your question now, is specifically around the risk or the worry about money running out and Social Security being cut. From a planning perspective, you really have to say, okay, how would I feel better planning for a possible decrease? First thing I would say is if you think about, first of all, when WEP and GPO were first voted into law, it was 1983. And if that year happens to ring a bell at all, that was also the same year that we saw the increase in retirement age to 67, which it is today. So all that happened in the same year, all the same time, 1983. So actually the reason they did that was to try to extend the life of Social Security. So now we step back and say, well, at some point, are they going to do something like that again? Are they going to extend it from 67 to 70? Or are they going to change the calculation of the cost of living adjustment? Are they going to increase payroll taxes? Something's got to happen. They got to solve the problem in some way or another. But if you said, okay, what is true worst case scenario? And that's what I want to plan for. Worst case scenario is we get to 2034. We just use that because again, it varies from month to month and day to day. So let's say it's 2034. That's the year that it is expected to just run dry. Worst case scenario is they cut everybody's benefit by 25%, problem solved.
Okay.
So if you said, okay, from a planning perspective, a retirement planning perspective, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to plan on saying, okay, if my benefit is $4,000, I'm going to plan on a $3,000 benefit and then build everything around that, right? That's option one. The other thing that I think is really critical to keep in mind is that in 1983, when the retirement age was extended from up to 67, it took 40 years for that to fully be implemented. So if you're talking about, our audience being, somewhere 55 plus, the likelihood of you being impacted is very low. We're talking probably more realistically, people that are now in their 20s and 30s being impacted versus people that are either, number one, receiving benefits or receiving benefits and call it the next 10 to 15 years. The likelihood
Okay,
of
I'm not worried about them.
Right.
They're on their own.
Yeah, they'll let them deal with that. Kick the can down the road is always a good solution for everything, right?
Right.
But I think from a peace of mind, I think that is important to discuss. That from a peace of mind standpoint, number one, if you're 55 and older, which is again our target audience, the people that we talk to the most, very unlikely that you're going to have to worry about it. But if you are truly worried about it and said, okay, you can truly want to think through, plan based on worst case, assume a 25% reduction, and then build everything out around that. So that means, again, do I work to make up the extra 25%? Do I pull more from my investment? What do I do? How am I going to make that gap up if I decide to plan that way?
Well, I like that answer. Thanks a lot, Eric. I
Fair
appreciate
enough.
it. All right.
Awesome. So let's talk about some next steps, because I think this is, again, really where we wanted to direct you. Okay, what do I do now? If I'm subject to WEP or if I'm subject to GPO, what do I do? First thing is make sure you check your Social Security statement. You want to look at your benefits, go to ssa.gov and see if you can, if you're already receiving benefits, you might even want to go back and try to track down some of your old records that you might have. Okay, what would I have been eligible for had it not gotten reduced because of WEP, if it's my own Social Security benefit? But go back and look at your statements and see what you're eligible for, see how this could impact you. And again, start the planning process. Talk to a financial advisor. That's number two. It's a great time to revisit your retirement plan and look and see what the implications are going to be. Again, we've already started reaching out to our clients who we know are going to be impacted. Because again, in certain cases, this can be life-changing for especially for women who have lost a husband. And we have a situation where we have a client that's going to get an extra $1,500 a month. And that's huge.
I like that.
You don't like the circumstances around why, when you lose a husband under, in her case, a pretty tragic circumstance. But now she's trying to put all the pieces together, and all of a sudden, right around Christmas time, New Year's, we get the word that, hey, you're going to actually be able to receive 100% of his survivor benefit now. It makes a huge difference in her life. And that's just one example. So talk to your financial advisor, figure out what the implications are going to be here. So you know what I can do, what do I need to change things, what's going to be the impact going forward. Because again, this is increased Social Security benefits. That's a lifetime guaranteed income that goes up every single year with inflation. So you got to know how that's going to impact you so you can make decisions, informed decisions based on that. The other thing is you want to stay informed. So obviously we only answered 5 questions today. We've got 5 more that we could have gone through if we had enough time. So we're going to make sure we do another episode in the very near future, answer more of these questions, but find a way to stay informed, pay attention to the news, contact the Social Security Administration, figure out what's going on. Because that's, again, there's some of these variables that we don't know yet. We don't know when those lump sums are going to be paid, but they're coming. It's just a matter of getting them calculated and identifying who's eligible. But again, who knows how long that might take, but know that it's there and be aware of it. The other thing is, number 4, apply for those benefits. I've already talked about this a couple of times. If you had not applied because you thought that your benefit was going to get eliminated, apply. Get those applications in now. I know, again, just saying that she's actually not a client. She's a friend of ours. She taught for 40 plus years. She's just retired. She's substitute teaching just to kind of make ends meet. She's got, based on a previous spouse, she's going to be eligible for spousal benefits now. She would have never, ever expected that. But from the standpoint of looking, okay, is this going to be what I can do to pay all the bills? Makes a huge difference. So, and that's going to be a lot of people out there. Because again, we all know all the statistics about divorce. If you are married to somebody for 10 years and you got divorced, think about whether you would be eligible for not and apply, get that application in there. Now, here's one other thing I'm going to suggest, and I haven't seen confirmation one way or the other, but this is one of those kind of little unknown tricks with Social Security. You can actually apply and request that it be retroactive 6 months. If you're above full retirement age, that's key. So let's say my full retirement age is 67 and I'm now 68. Well, again, we talked about it being retroactive to January 1. If you had never applied, you're not getting benefits back to January 1. But you might be able to say, hey, I'm 68 years old. My full retirement age was 67. Apply for benefits and request retroactive payments for 6 months. Anybody can do that. Anybody has that option to do that, to request and you get a lump sum of those 6 months. Now, it reduces how much you're going to get ongoing, but that lump sum could be big. But in this case, where you never were receiving benefits anyway, apply and request that 6-month retroactive payment.
Sounds good.
So you want to get as much out of the system as you can, right?
Yeah, I'll take it.
So make sure you apply, and if you're above full retirement age, see if you can apply for that 6-month retroactive payment. The other thing, just a quick shout out for our own podcast. Number 5 is tune into our podcast. We've done a number of episodes on Social Security, everything from the top 5 things all women need to know to, that was episode 14. Episode 32, we had a Social Security specialist who spent 25 years in the Social Security system, shared a lot of different tricks and things you want to be aware of. The biggest thing he suggested, and what I'm going to suggest as well, is be educated. Taking the information that we've shared today, you want to know when you make that phone call to Social Security Administration, you want to know what information you're trying to get. Unfortunately, you cannot always rely on them to give you accurate information. I've heard way too many stories of the wrong information being passed along. So know what you're looking for. Know what you don't know, know the right questions. You may not know the answers to those questions, but know the right questions to ask. That's huge. And then again, we had episode 24 where we talked about spousal and ex-spousal benefits. That's the government pension offset piece of this. Same thing with episode 37 on survivor benefits. That's the government pension offset. That's the part that impacts so many women. Again, 83% of individuals impacted by the government pension offset are women. So understand what you're eligible for, what's out there for you. Because whether you thought you were eligible or not, find out. See if there's money that's that's waiting for you now. So those are really the 5 key takeaways. Any other thoughts, Wendy? Any other clarifications? Anything that you think that that I missed out?
No, I think we're good for today. We covered a lot.
Well, that's all for today's episode. The Social Security Fairness Act is a significant win for millions of retirees, especially women in teaching and other public sector workers. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends and family who might benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. For all the links and resources shared in this episode, please visit our website at www.thesimply.retirementpodcast.com. We will see you on the next episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. In the meantime, please remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey.
That's it for today's episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. We hope you found our insights and advice helpful in planning for a fulfilling retirement. Don't forget to take action on what you've learned today. Visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com to learn more about our firm and review our Simply Retirement Roadmap process to get you on the right path to the retirement you deserve. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to helping you achieve your retirement goals. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey. So embrace it and make the most of it. Until next time, take care. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Blake Wealth Management. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Blake Wealth Management or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor, Blake Wealth Management, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.